So I'll ask you it again.
Okay.
All right. Jody, what would you say the most progressive coaches are doing right now to implement LTAD effectively, and perhaps share an example?
Right now, and maybe this is more to do with my own thinking, but what I see as being the most progressive coaching that I'm watching right now has a lot to do with the idea of how you implement excellence takes time. So when I see coaches who are right now trying to figure out what their athletes need now in order to become more competent at their sport and trying to figure out ways to provide that in the program, those coaches I think are much more progressive than the ones who are trying to produce the fastest possible race time and develop qualities that are needed at a higher level. Because often what happens is the things that are needed at the higher level require the foundation of what gets developed today. And so I think coaches are really beginning to understand the importance of that and trying to keep athletes challenged and engaged in the sport so that they remain in the sport while they're progressing and learning. And they're really beginning to understand the value of making sure that the athletes value the process of learning more than they value the process of winning. And I think an example of that would be a swim coach that is in the advanced coaching diploma and has decided that he's going to overhaul his train to train and learn to compete programs so that he can address the needs of his male and female swimmers separately. So he's going to change the competitions that they go to. He's going to make it so that his very young swimmers don't even compete outside of the club if they don't want to. He's changing what he measures so that it matches what he says matters. He's measuring skill in very specific elements of strokes instead of measuring performance times. And he's created an environment where he's going to allow females and males to train separately at a certain age because he feels like that's going to be more effective for them, and it makes it easier for him to do completely different things with those two groups. And so I think it's a really, really brave thing to do because it's not the norm, and it's also not something that is easy for him to do logistically, but he believes in it so strongly that he has committed to doing it for the entire club.
Okay, I love that. I want to just circle back a bit to asking you to kind of put on the lens of that serious triathlete or endurance sport participant who's a full-blown adult, so like masters. And for folks who know the framework well, they identify in that competitive for life zone. So they're not on that excellence pathway, but they're really serious athletes. And what should they be looking for to identify that quality sport program for themselves?
I think that when you're a competitive adult athlete, some of the most important things to you are to do with performance. So you are definitely someone who cares about how well you do. But in my experience, most masters athletes are very process oriented. So they're not necessarily concerned about how they do compared to everyone else, but they do want to keep doing better themselves. And so I think it's super important to find a place where you can train with other people who are of the same mindset as you. So if you're someone who is interested in comparing yourself to you, it's great to train with other people who feel that way. And if you're someone who is interested in comparing yourself to other people, then it's great to train with other people who feel that way. But it can be really difficult to mix those two groups, especially as adults, because I find that masters programs in general are social. I mean, even national Olympic teams are social in many ways. So it's important to kind of make sure that that environment you're putting yourself into is going to provide that social benefit for you, and also is going to make it easy for you to pursue your goals in the way that you want to pursue them instead of having to fight the environment that you're training in. And from a physical point of view, I think it's important to find a coach who is willing to put the effort into providing you with a little bit of individual attention in terms of what your program looks like and how you decide when your recovery and performance capabilities are at the level that you want them to be, so that you are able to participate in the program in a way that is good for your health. Because I think that my experience in high performance sport tells me that being a high performance athlete is not necessarily a good thing for you from a health perspective. And you don't need, the glory of being in the competitive for life category is that you don't need to carry that over into the rest of your life. So whatever it is that you need from a health perspective, you want to find a coach who can provide that to you.
Okay, so that, I don't know how you'll, my gosh, I don't know how, you have so much clay, but that answer is the John Bird 3433 answer. John needs to do something with that answer. Okay?
Alright.
Got it? I'm dead serious. He should be here and he needs to think about that. Okay, last question. Can we do this as the last question?
Okay?
All right, I want you to imagine, I'm totally riffing on this one, but this is where you are. You have a room full of sport parents.